Square Enix is literally collapsing as we speak, ladies and gentlemen. They just announced there's going to be significant layoffs to their US and Europe divisions. People are going to be losing their jobs, and this is not a good thing to see. This is quite unfortunate considering Square Enix is one of the best developers of all time. They've had a long-standing reputation with the gaming industry, and especially during a year where Final Fantasy VII Rebirth just came out, which is easily my contender for Game of the Year, it fell short of their expectations. What the hell? If that fell short of their expectations, how high are their standards as far as making money, selling copies of games go? Now, as a result of all that, they literally said profits went down a huge percentage. Their stock has dropped immensely. Things are looking dark for Square Enix at this point. And again, I said this on Twitter, if Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3 doesn't come out because of this shit, I'm going to be utterly pissed. I've lived the last 2 decades awaiting a good remake of Final Fantasy VII, and we're here. We're at Part 3. I thought Rebirth was phenomenal. Lots of people didn't like it, but there's a lot of things that Square Enix hadn't been doing, evidently, that has caused people to drop off. Whether it's the games just aren't that great, maybe, I don't know, people might feel that games like Forspoken were a little too woke, or maybe just the gaming industry as a whole is headed for a crash, which is what a lot of people believe. It's looking like it, especially when Square Enix just announced that they'll be going multi-platform. They're going to be focusing on putting their games and their AAA titles in their catalog, not just on PlayStation, but also on the upcoming Switch 2. I like to call it the Super Nintendo Switch, and Xbox and PC. Well, it remains to be seen what's going to happen. Honestly, as far as a video game crash goes, I feel that if the Switch's successor fails to meet expectations of developers like Square Enix, let's say for whatever reason it might bomb, it might go the way of the Wii U, I think we're headed for some very, very, very huge rough waters in the gaming industry, to the point where maybe a crash will happen. Games are just way too expensive to make now. Games just cost way too much as far as budget goes, and they're not able to meet their expectations. Think about it. How many copies Rebirth has sold, how much money it's made. Think of all these big, huge games that are coming out that are Game of the Year candidates, and they're still not meeting expectations. That's weird. Now, Square Enix is doing some restructuring. They had an internal meeting on Monday. They're going to be laying off a lot of people, and you hate to see it. Now, the details were written in Video Games Chronicle, but I'll give you the skinny right here. The Square Enix president, Takashi Kiryu, informed staff that there's impending layoffs. And that sucks because I've been laid off from several jobs in the past. They're set to occur over the next month, so at least they kind of get a heads up. There's no exact number of affected employees, but this is something that's been prominent in recent weeks. We just saw Xbox closed down 4 of their major studios that they spent billions of dollars for during the ZeniMax acquisition. Sony, not too long ago, also terminated a lot of people from their employment. And it seems like more and more studios, more companies, they're laying off. And it's because, you know, the economy right now, we're in a recession. Inflation's at an all-time high. All aspects of media, whether it's movies, music, TV, and games, are being effective. And what's crazy to think about is how much money is actually coming into the gaming industry, and we're still seeing people lose their jobs. We're still seeing companies not make enough money, and employees affected by these layoffs are basically going to be entering 1-month consultations in the UK. They're going to be, I guess, taken care of on the way out, which is good. At least Square Enix has policies and stuff to protect people. It's not just a peace out, see you later, sayonara, suckers. But the financial results that Square Enix had are very troubling, especially when you hear terms like reorganize, rebuild, optimize costs. It's very scary to see as far as like money and business goes, because I don't want gaming to go into a recession or a crash, right? I want video games to succeed. It sucks when people lose their jobs, but you got to factor in a lot of other stuff as well, not just budget concerns, but also a lot of the DE&I stuff that's placed into these games, right? You get people force feeding crap like Suicide Squad, a game that should have did good, that could have done good, but Warner Brothers screwed the pooch on that one, trying to make wokeness into it. Then you get woke being fed into other games that it's just like, what the hell's going on here? Sony just this month alone almost diminished Helldivers 2 with their whole practices of wanting to put PlayStation Network accounts mandatory attached to Steam accounts. Stuff like that turns gamers off. People don't want stuff to be forced into them where they're forcing them to be controlled or censored, and the whole reason why that was a backlash was because it was a way to moderate people a lot easier with a PlayStation account attached to their Steam. That wasn't exactly anything woke, but it's this anti-consumer practices that companies like Sony are starting to do, to a point where you can't even tell what's real outrage or not anymore. For example, there was that weird tweet going around on Twitter where somebody compared being a Sony fanboy the equivalent of being an African American in 1939 United States. Like, what the hell was that? That was such a weird tweet that I couldn't even tell if it was real or not. And that tweet got ratioed. I don't know. That account looks suspect. There's only like 1,700 followers on it. It's never, ever, ever doubt the mind of a weird Discordian Twitter gamer, because they're weird. But anyways, the whole thing going on with Square, you hate to see it as far as what's going on. This president, Kiryu, he's been the president since June of last year, and he's basically been trying everything he can to reorganize Square, especially in the role of like their development strategies and everything like that. I have no clue what's going on. They unveiled a new business plan today that's going to be called Square Enix Reboots and Awakens. I have no idea what's going to be like that, but there is a new strategy of multi-platform releases that are going to be on Nintendo. And again, like I said, if the Nintendo Switch 2 could run good Square games when they come brand new, or not just getting ports and remakes and old games, decades old ports ported over to Nintendo, I think they could save it. I think Nintendo is going to be the be-all, end-all of this next console generation. If it's a success, I think they're going to save it. And at this point, it looks like everybody in the industry is relying on Nintendo, because look at what Xbox is going through. Look at what PlayStation's going through. And I think, honestly, when you're throwing in other factors like Sweet Baby Inc. coming in and ruining gaming, gamers are just kind of fed up. They're tuning out. I know more and more people every day are going back to older games. I literally have people in my live chat saying that they're going back to play Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 era games because there was no microtransactions or online server issues and DLC and patching and censorship and all this bull crap. And I know people that still play NES and Atari to this day. So I don't know, man. I think Square Enix has a chance if this multi-platform thing does go good, if they expand their availability of their major releases to other consoles and stuff. It might help them reach a broader audience. It might make more sales, which kind of defeats the purpose of, like, why did they go exclusive anyway? I mean, I could see it. Sony forked over some major money, make Final Fantasy VII a PlayStation exclusive, but guess what? It didn't do any good, because even PlayStation at this point is saying that the sales weren't enough. And if you really look at it from a first-party aspect, PlayStation 5 has had a lot of trouble. They've had some good bangers, Demon's Souls Remake, Ratchet & Clank, Returnal, God of War, but there hasn't been enough compared to like the PlayStation 3 era, the PlayStation 4 era, where it was like they were unstoppable. Xbox is still floundering. In fact, the more studios they kill, the worse it's going to get. Nintendo has always been king when it comes to first party. Multi-platform, third parties, hit or miss on Nintendo. PlayStation and Xbox have always relied on third party, which is good. If the Switch 2 can make third party games accessible and run great on there, I think gaming is going to be okay. Look at how well the Switch has done with sales alone. It's like the little engine that could. Maybe companies like Square Enix need to lower their expectations, maybe make stuff a little bit more low budget, a little bit more smaller. Like instead of having a huge 60, 70-hour JRPG, maybe have a good 30-hour one. It'll cost less money, make it less ambitious. Because you're spending millions of dollars and then you're freaking out at loss of profits and firing people. So I just want to give my thoughts on this because I know I've been asked. What do you guys think? Let me know down below. I'll see you on the next one.